My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Okay, now that we're calm, okay, I gave you guys my sort of emotional reaction after the Sevilla match last night. Let's kind of do a calmer analysis. Now, tonight was a sort of just a culmination, a confirmation that this is just not working. Okay, they say that the definition of insanity is to try the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And it feels like that's where we are. We keep waiting for that next match to see if something has changed, but it just doesn't. It's the same incredibly poor football every single time. So I think we have to admit that there are major problems, and we need to talk about what they are. I don't know why with this team every single victory feels like a defeat, because even when we win, it just feels like we lost. But I'm going to give you guys some, we'll talk about the match briefly, the lineup and players. We'll do that kind of briefly. And then I want to talk about, we'll do a slightly deeper dive, the 11 things that I think are major deficiencies, problems at Real Madrid that need to be corrected. Okay, thanks for joining me. Let me give you guys my thoughts slightly more calmly about the match last night. Thanks for joining me. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's just discuss the match briefly, and then we can move on to sort of more important things, the sort of major problems that I think we need to fix. Okay, just very quickly in terms of the match itself. Look, in terms of the lineup, this is the lineup that we got. It was what I expected in my preview, no major surprise. The only difference was that Fede, I think, was recovering from a flu or something like that, so he wasn't available, and we played Asensio as right back. But the rest of the lineup was kind of as expected. It was a 4-3-3, which I also anticipated. So no kind of major surprises there. Now, in terms of the match itself, and something that my uncle just mentioned in a short, we start every match really slowly. It takes so long to get into the match. We came out, with very, not very focused, lack of concentration. We lost a lot of balls very early on. Kylian did manage to, he had a couple of chances early on, but it felt, the opportunities that we created felt very much like isolated incidents. It didn't feel like it was a product of sort of good collective play. They just felt like sort of one-off type situations. We never really felt like we were in control of this match at any point. As the minutes went by, Sevilla was able to sort of move the ball around, a little bit more comfortably. Our press was either non-existent or not very effective. Sevilla, like I say, did manage to string passes together fairly easily. We never really had a grip on the match. Fran had a very early chance, like I say, Kylian, a couple of others, but only about 3 or 4 minutes in, already Sevilla had a good chance with a lob that sort of went wide. At this point, and we're talking about the 11th minute here, you could already start to hear some whistles in the Bernabeu, and that was sort of, a sort of taste of what was to come. We kind of tried to settle into possession. Bini was trying to sort of do his thing on the wing, take people on, but those plays always ended up in either a foul or Bini losing the ball. Rodrigo was quite active, although none of it was fruitful in the first half. And like I say, we weren't really creating too many chances. The goal finally came in the 38th minute. This was a header by Jude. Again, kind of just everything feels random these days. It was a set piece and a header by Jude. Of course, you celebrate the goal, but it just felt like an isolated incident to me. It didn't feel like the product of build-up or the product of a very good play. That sort of helped to kind of control the whistles for a little bit, at least a little bit. But the first half ended with kind of just an empty feeling. You're thinking, I just watched 45 minutes of football and we haven't done anything. We haven't done anything. It's like, what did I come to see? So it ended with a kind of feeling of sort of, something is missing here. Now, when the second half started, things got, believe it or not, even worse. And in the second half, I think the wheels really came off. Okay, we completely lost control of the midfield. This is something we're going to talk about in a minute, but we completely lost control of the midfield. We started losing balls, with a lot of ease. It's amazing how little pressure it takes to get us to cough up the ball. It's something absolutely remarkable. Now, Courtois made, in the second half alone, 4 unbelievable saves, and it's extraordinary that Real Madrid playing at home against Sevilla, and most of the second half, with an extra man, and Courtois had to rescue us on 4 different occasions. The red card to Sevilla came in the 68th minute, and you would have thought that at this point, okay, well, we should be able to play very fluid football now. It's 11v10, but no, that's not what happened. Even with 10 men, Sevilla looked more threatening than us, and it was just amazing to see us defending a 10-man Sevilla attack. It was just, it's kind of incomprehensible that this could be the case. And as the minutes went by, you could kind of feel the tension rise and the whistles sort of start to kick in ever more. In the 83rd minute, Vini was subbed. And the one thing I will mention, because the press is making a big deal about the whistles in the stadium when Vini was subbed, I'll tell you that it wasn't as bad as I think the press is portraying. Okay, I mean, yes, there were some whistles in some segments of the crowd, but it was by no means a kind of unanimous thing. It wasn't like Tchouaméni last year, who really heard it from the crowd. This was, it was kind of mixed. So I think the media is kind of jumping on this, but it wasn't as bad as I think they're projecting. Okay, now, after Vini left, we put Rodrigo on the left, which is where he plays his best football. And that's where we got the penalty in the 86th minute. And this was, this was a good play by Rodrigo, but it was kind of an isolated play. Got the penalty. Again, he is a good player and he prefers to play on the left. But again, it felt, once again, like an isolated play. It didn't feel like this was the function of sort of very good, continuous collective play. Kylian, of course, scores the goal, and that sort of ties him with Cristiano at 59 goals in one calendar year. And all of that is good and fine, but as long as the team plays like this, I couldn't possibly care less. So we basically played 30 plus minutes at home with an extra man, and it didn't feel that way at all. Completely unacceptable performance. We felt very, very isolated. When Real Madrid players would receive the ball, the player that receives the ball needs to have 2 things. One, he needs support short, and he needs options long. Okay? Now, our players, when they receive the ball, they have neither. They have neither support short, so the moment you start to press them, they have no natural outlet, and we lose the ball because we're not playing close enough together, and so we're losing the ball. And we also don't have options long, because if a player doesn't have enough time to lift his head and look around, you can't entertain any other options in terms of long passes or longer runs being made up front. So you need to have support short and options long when a player gets the ball. And our players had neither because of the just terrible organization of our play. So, we basically finished the match sort of, kind of, again, almost half begging for the whistle, and you're playing with an extra man at home. It's just completely, this was a horrendous performance. Look, we're going to move on to the things that are wrong with our play, which is, very important. Players, just very quickly, I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'll just say, look, I'll highlight Courtois. I think Courtois was our best player. He saved us once again. I think Courtois is the best goalkeeper in the world, and it's extraordinary to me how a goalkeeper that doesn't intervene and play that often, but every time that he's called upon, his reflexes and his concentration are there. Courtois is an absolute blessing, and we are very, very fortunate to have him because he really is saving us match after match. Okay, I thought that Asensio and Tchouaméni were pretty solid. I'll mention them because I think they had reasonably good games. Vini tried his best, especially in the first half, to make those runs. But like I say, none of them turned out to be particularly fruitful. I mean, he would either get fouled, which he gets fouled a lot, and the refs never call it, or lose the ball. So it was just a kind of a frustrating night, I think, for Vini. Rodrigo, I thought, was very proactive. He was one of our sort of higher energy players and was more involved in our offensive play. I think he had a decent match. I wouldn't say it was a great match. Some of the reviews in the media, I think, are very exaggerated. I think Rodrigo played well. I don't think it was anything exceptional. Jude, I think, ran a lot, but I think his contributions, were more marked defensively. I think he wasn't as effective creating play going forward, but I think defensively he made a good effort. And as always, he runs himself into the ground. I think Arda was playing in the wrong position. I just think he was playing in the wrong position. Arda spent most of the match on defensive duties, and this is a player that you need for offensive creation. So I just think Arda was in the wrong position and wasted most of his time in the 90 minutes chasing balls instead of creating play. And again, I think that this is just, poor management. Huijsen looked to me like he was half asleep. I don't know what's going on with Huijsen. When he first joined us, I thought he looked really, really good, and I was really excited. And we paid a hell of a lot of money for this kid. But the last sort of 2-3 matches, he looks a bit sluggish, a bit slow. He's really sloppy on the ball. His passes are terrible, and he just seems to lose the ball and send out stray passes. I don't know what's happening with Huijsen. Maybe he needs to get back into sort of regular play rhythm. But he was kind of worrisome. And then Kylian, I got to be honest, as good as he is, he's kind of only thinking about himself. It just seems to me that his focus is very individualistic. He's kind of look. Let me ask you this: how often do you see Kylian play one touch? How often do you see Kylian play a ball one touch just to continue the momentum of the play and to sort of as part of collective play? It's very rare. I mean, typically Kylian will stop the ball and start dribbling and turn it into an individual thing, an individual situation. Very rarely does Kylian just kind of give go, like pass quickly, one touch. Very rarely. He grabs the ball, brings it down, and starts dribbling, and it just kind of all becomes a little bit too much about him and too individualistic. Yes, he's an amazing player. Yes, he's scoring a lot of goals, but I would like to see him contribute more to something that looks like team play. So, he matched Cristiano's record of 59 goals in a calendar season. Great, but when Cristiano was here doing it, it didn't seem to affect collective play. When Kylian does it, somehow it feels like one thing is at the expense of the other. Yes, Kylian's scoring a lot of goals, but it feels like it's at the expense of team play. And that was not the case when Chris was here. When Chris was here, he scored tons of goals, but it never felt like it was getting in the way of the strategy or the team dynamics or the team system. Okay, let's get down to sort of fundamental problems with this squad. There's probably a million more, but these are the ones that sort of off the top of my head come up. Okay, number one, our lines are too far apart. Okay, so the distance between your forward and your last defender is way too wide. I don't know if you guys noticed this on TV, but Xavi spent most of the match doing this, like with his arms, indicating to the players to get closer together, because the distance between players and the distance between lines is just far too big. And that comes down to management and coaching, I'm afraid. That is something that Xavi is responsible for. Okay, number two, we never control the midfield. We never control the midfield. Now, we've gone to a 4-3-3 again, and the 4-3-3 leaves us a bit hollow in the middle of the pitch. I always feel more comfortable with a 4-4-2. With a 4-3-3, everything seems very spread out, and everything seems very isolated and individual, and we lose control of the middle of the pitch. So that's another thing that I think is very noticeable, is how quickly we lose control of the midfield. Number three, this team has no leaders. This team has no leadership. If you think about Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Benzema, the attitude that they had and the way just their mere presence, the impact that their mere presence had on other players, there was something there that was different. You always felt like we could come back, we could turn something around, that we could create danger. You always had a feeling that there was something there, and it was contagious and affected the rest of the squad. I am not seeing this in this squad. There is no leadership. We're missing a Sergio Ramos. We're missing, even Dani Carvajal, when he's around and healthy, a Kroos, a Modric, a Benzema, Cristiano, these players that are winners, that have attitude, that just refuse to lose. We're missing that. There is no leadership in this team. Okay, number four, we change formation and style of play too often. And I think it's confusing the players. I don't know if you guys, I'm old, so in the 90s I used to watch the Bulls with Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, and they would play the triangle offense, which was kind of a new way of playing basketball. But once he got the entire squad to understand the system, it was plug and play. It didn't matter who was playing. They all knew how to create the triangles and kind of rotate from one triangle into another. But they learned the system and the system became automatic. Okay, we change formation and we change style so often that these players have no idea what they're supposed to do. I think this is adding to a lot of the confusion. Number 5, there is a total lack of intensity throughout the match. So we have moments and bursts of energy that are visible, but they're very intermittent and they never last. There is no sort of constant level of intensity when it comes to pressing, recovering the ball, defending, or even on the counters, sprinting to counter. That we are so hot and cold. We're very stop and go. There's no consistency in terms of the physical intensity of our players. I have no idea if this has something to do with the physical preparation of the squad or otherwise, or mental, but there is no consistency in terms of our intensity on the pitch. Okay, number 6, as my uncle said in the short we just put out, there's no collective play. Everything is individual. It's Vini versus 4, Kylian versus 5. There's no collective play. These goals are always a product of just an individual moment of brilliance. And like my uncle says in the short, this will win you matches. It will not win you tournaments. Tournaments are won by teams, not by individuals. And that is very much lacking. Number 7. Both our offensive and defensive transitions are awful. Okay, I discussed it last night. When a team is in transition and you recover a ball in your own half, every player, depending on where that ball is recovered, every player needs to know what they're supposed to do. So, and this should be automatic. This should be totally second nature. You practice it all week. By the time the weekend comes and you have a match, this is so ingrained in your head. Somebody recovers the ball over there, I need to go up that wing. Like, every player should know that this does not happen with Real Madrid. Last night, whenever there was a situation where we stole the ball and we're trying to initiate a counter, there was no cohesion. Asensio would be running up the right and maybe Kylian would follow him, but all the other players would lag behind, either because they were not given the right instructions or they refused to follow the instructions. But I can tell you that both our defensive transition when we lose the ball and have to retreat, and our offensive transition when we recover the ball and need to counter, are absolutely awful and totally uncoordinated. Okay, number 8. I think Vini is becoming a problem. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of stick for this in the comment section. You guys are going to tear my head off, and that's fine. I think Vini's becoming a problem. He's too inconsistent and a little bit too distracting. Look, in the golden year that Vini played wonderfully, in the 22 year, and the year after, he would need 3 or 4 incursions on the left before he did something impactful and very positive. Now he needs about 20 of those to produce something impactful. I think that the efficiency level of his play on the wing has really declined. His decision-making in the final third has really gone down. Some of his decisions, passes, and shots in the final third are unbelievable this year. They're awful, absolutely awful. I don't know what's happened to Vini, but this is becoming very problematic. And if he gets upset when he's sort of asked to go to the bench, I don't care. You can be as upset as you want, but if you are not playing consistently well, you do not get to start and play every match. I'm sorry. You can tell me what you think in the comment section, but I think the Vini situation is becoming problematic. Okay, number 9. Something is wrong with the physical preparation of this team. Now, the injuries are not normal. And I've discussed this on my channel before, that if all the injuries, the more muscular injuries you have, the more it has to do with the physical preparation and training. I mean, obviously, if a player gets injured because of a clash with another player, you can't really control that. But if you have a lot of muscular injuries, that's an indication that something is wrong with either the preparation of the squad physically or the allocation of minutes on the part of the manager. Something is wrong with the physical preparation of this team, because the amount of injuries that we have and the array of injuries that we have is simply not normal. I know that the calendar is crazy and hectic, but that doesn't just affect us. Every top team in Europe has to deal with this calendar, which I think is abusive. But there's something wrong with Real Madrid on the physical side, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. If it's nutrition or training or something, but something is going on, and I'm very concerned about that. Okay, number 10. Some players are just playing in the wrong position. And, you know, our inability to control the midfield might have something to do with the fact that our players are playing in the wrong position. For me, Arda Güler is a number 10. Okay, Arda Güler is a number 10. He's a creative player. He has a wonderful touch. He can see a run. He can incredible technique. He can make a perfect pass. He is a 10. He should play in the interior of the pitch where he's got a 360 range to operate. That is where Arda Güler shines. And Jude, who is a much more physical player, incredibly good on the ball, incredibly technical and skillful. He's just technically wonderful, but he also has physicality. And he also works tremendously hard in terms of defensive duties. So in my view, Jude is more of an 8, and I think Arda is more of a 10. Well, what did we see last night? The opposite, because Arda was playing too far back. He spent the entire match chasing balls and slide tackling people, when what he should be doing is concentrating on receiving the ball and getting the ball to our forwards. So players in the wrong position, starting with Arda and Jude. And then finally, number 11, and this goes all the way to the top in the office buildings, poor management choices, okay? Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with Florentino and Jose Angel Sanchez and Yuni Calafat. I'm very sorry, but some of the choices and decisions we've made are very, very poor. We started this season with one defender too few. We all knew this. We let Lenny Yoro go because what? We didn't want to spend another $5 million to match Man United, or $10 million. Who cares? If this is a mission critical position, spend the money. What do we do instead? We bring Kylian. And look, I think Kylian's an amazing player, and right now, quite possibly the best in the world. But is it something that we needed? Because I get the feeling that the decision to bring Kylian, and by the way, you guys are going to kill me in the comment section, and I have nothing against Kylian. He's our best player right now, and he's wonderful. But I just think that bringing Kylian was more of a commercial decision than a sporting decision. And now, yes, the club financially is doing very, very well, but on the pitch, we're awful. And yes, Kylian's an amazing player. He's going to score tons of goals, but does he fit in the system? Does he fit in what we're trying to do as a team? And I'm not sure that the answer is yes. So don't get me wrong. I love Kylian and I compliment him a lot in my videos, but these are the type of decisions at the management level that affect the sporting performance of the club. And in this case, we have to point the finger at Florentino and Jose Angel Sanchez as well, because they are responsible for this situation as much as Xavi or the players or anybody else. So anyway, those are the 11 things that I think really stand out. I'm sure that there are plenty more. But this is a worrisome situation, and something has to change. I think that Xavi's days are numbered. The Super Cup, I'm really dreading, because Atletico de Madrid is a very tough team. They're very physical, very aggressive, and we are soft. We are so soft. I'm really, really worried about that. But I can tell you that at the next slip on a banana peel, Xavi is going to be like, oh, I can't see him lasting too long. And like I say, because I don't see any forward progress in terms of our play. Okay, guys, those are my thoughts, slightly more calmly, but still profoundly disappointed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Let's hope we can turn this around and try to salvage the season. Thanks for joining me as always. Love you guys. And as always, a la Madrid.